Hello, everybody out there in comic book land. My name is George Serrano, aka The Don, and if you're listening to this, you can only be here for one reason, and it's a brand new episode of the Major Issues Podcast brought to you by comicbookclique.com. And as always, I am never alone. Sir, if you could please introduce yourself.
How's it going, everybody? It's John Escudero here, aka Yogi.
Yogi is here, and he is one of the best people to ever come onto this podcast. One would even call him S tier. One of the first ones to join in on all the madness that we do here on the Major Issues Podcast. And we have a bunch of things to celebrate. First and foremost, we just passed 6 years as Comic Book Clique, and the Batman has just been released on HBO Max. Have you given it a rewatch yet, Yogi?
I rewatched it last night for the first time since theaters, and oh boy, still just as good, even better now. I found some of the scenes were hitting even harder now. I found myself smiling. I was like, oh man.
Oh, because you knew it was coming? You knew
Yeah.
when...
It's like, wow.
Yeah, I think that it's become part of conversation again. Even just like for a second there, it felt like the world had seen it and people weren't really talking about it anymore. And then it came back to streaming, or came on streaming, and a bunch of people saw it for the very first time. And so the debates have come right back up about, how good this film is. Is it the best Batman film? And I feel like all that is up to preference. Depending on what you're looking for in a Batman film, you can find those elements in almost every single one, and thus you can have your favorite. Your favorite is subjective. So we're not interested in trying to figure out which is the best Batman film, but throughout Batman's life in cinema, he's had a bunch of villains. And we decided that we were going to create another special episode of the Major Issues Podcast. You guys know which was worse, a staple here. Well, we created another one, and it's called Tier Factor. And in Tier Factor, we're not eating no bull testicles or anything like that. We are here.
Oh, I came for bull testicles.
Oh, son of a... all that training for nothing.
Damn.
We've set up 5 tiers: S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, and D tier. And we will be, I guess, ranking and putting each one of these villains in a respective class of their own, and then kind of looking over the list afterwards to see where everyone landed, which I think is going to be the best part. And when I'm thinking of Batman, I'm thinking about Batman villains. I couldn't have done this with anyone else, Yogi. So are you ready to start the very first episode of Tier Factor?
Yes, let's go.
I love this because I have absolutely no notes. So this is all going to be opinion and what I can't remember.
We're winging it.
Yes. Have you seen the very first Batman movie?
No, I have not, admittedly.
Okay.
I should get around to it, though. Is it on HBO Max?
I have to double check because for a while I believe Disney owned it through some weird Fox loophole. Yeah, through a weird Fox loophole. I think it's a Disney thing.
A big flex would have been if they put it on Disney Plus.
Yes, like banner, like right there, right in the middle. We have the Batman. Yeah. So while we have the Batman now, and before then, in 1989, we had Batman, the very first film that Batman ever did, and I'm not talking about the serials and stuff like that. I'm talking about major motion picture. Is Batman the movie? Because remember they were doing that at the time, like Rugrats the movie, and like you had to remind people that it was the show, the movie, and the villains of that were Cesar Romero's Joker, Riddler, Penguin, and Catwoman. And I think that they deserve. I'd like to put them in A. I think just for being I was gonna say pilgrims. Pioneers.
It's almost not fair, right? Because these are basically the villains from the TV show, right? Everyone from the TV show came back.
Yeah.
So they're already like they've got such a huge advantage. Like they've had so much time to seep into the hearts and minds of everyone. Like even back then, Even within
Right,
the context of like the '60s, people would have already been so excited to see these TV characters on the, I guess, big screen. How
right.
is it? Was it a theatrical release? Or was it like a
Yeah,
TV primetime special?
I believe it was. I would be very upset if it wasn't a theatrical release. I'm almost certain because I know that they I think one was supposed to eventually lead to the other, but the scheduling got kind of messed up.
Yeah.
Um yeah, but even with Cesar Romero not shaving his mustache, I think that these guys trailblazers, you know. I just don't know if I'm ready to put them in an S tier. I just wasn't of that time, so like I respect what they've done, but I'm not sure where they should sit on this. Where do you
I
think
mean,
these people should go?
really, like I said, from what I've seen of their performances from watching TV, from watching the TV show at least, I think I think A tier. I think A tier is pretty accurate. If I feel like B tier is almost disrespectful. Like,
Oh yeah, yes, yes, of course. I'm looking now. It's saying something about it made 3.9 million in rentals.
in rentals. Oh, so
In
was it like a straight to VHS deal back
uh,
then? Or not VHS? It was the '60s or was it '70s? What was the year this was released?
66.
'66. All right. Wow. I'm not sure how would the distribution of something like this have been in the
That's what
'60s.
I'm that's what I'm trying to find out right now. But everything I try to pull up pulls up the Batman. I'm looking at Batman the movie, people. But yeah, I think I agree with you. I think they deserve to go in the A tier. So congratulations, Batman the movie villains. You are now A tier. Speaking of A tier, possibly S tier. Jack Nicholson's Joker from the Batman '89. Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? Or do you, do it look like I'm joking? All of that stuff. Um, wait till you get a load of me. I really like Nicholson's Joker. I like the extended Smilex commercial stuff. Like that reminds me of like I was gonna say it reminds me of animated series as if the animated series came before then, but like it reminds me of that class of Joker. It's gonna get very serious with that character after this, so I
Yeah.
want to kind of give the Nicholson kind of slap happy Joker some credit. But where does that character feel like it belongs to you?
I very much enjoy Nicholson's performance as Joker. I enjoy the character, but the one thing that has always bothered me for my whole life is the way that they tied him into the murder of Batman's parents.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I
Yeah.
I hate that so much.
Yeah.
It burns me alive that that exists. And it's so popular, and maybe people even think that's the way it goes. Like,
Yeah, it came all the way back around to Joker, the Joker film,
yeah,
where Joker, well, I guess you could say not exactly responsible, but it's semi-responsible, and it's like that becomes like some star-crossed fate stuff that I don't really care for. Like I much rather it be some
yep,
rando
yep, yep.
who's
I
making
actually
money.
never want to see it clearly defined. Like, we can talk about the Batman right now, right? Like
Yeah, I believe so.
they the way they kind of teased an idea here and teased another idea there, but ultimately decided like it was, we'll never know. It was random crime. That's the way
Yeah,
it needs to be. It would be weird if Batman had a mission that can be completed. That's
right, right. And also in his first movie, like he doesn't
yeah,
lock up this Joker. This Joker dies. Like it's all over. It's all over. It's like okay,
that's
that was the
it.
whole thing. Yeah, that was the
Parents
whole thing.
avenged. Parents
Yeah.
avenged. This mission is done. I'm going to go find a wife. And that's it.
Kind of makes me wonder what would have happened if Bruce would have been able to shoot him in Begins. Like that would have been it. That would have been it would have been just credits.
Yeah,
um
so it's A tier for me. For
A
me
tier?
anyway.
Okay.
I understand if you would go S tier because it does have that legendary status. But for me it's an A tier.
I think I'm gonna go A tier as well. I'm saving my S tiers. I think that there's, that should be hallowed ground, and we can re-review the list once we start seeing what how some of these tiers line up. So you can join Cesar Romero, Jack Nicholson, and the rest of the cast of Batman the movie in the A tier. Um, S tier, Selena Kyle, Batman Returns. Almost everything is wrong with this character's
Right?
origin, the costume, the hair color. Like everything about this is has nothing to do with the canon of Catwoman whatsoever.
And then her damn hair color leaked into the perfect animated series. Like
Yep.
you're the one thing that stands out as a bad thing. Such a perfect piece of art. It's because of you.
And she like I said, like I just really, really dug it. I still love Batman Returns. I love it on rewatch. Everyone who's heard the podcast knows it's a sentimental favorite. Um and I questioned when I put her up here. I was like, well, what about, Zoe Kravitz, and what about girl from the Nolan trilogy? Why am I blanking on her name now?
And
Anne
Hathaway.
Hathaway. There you go. But they were not really antagonistic. I think like at one point she stabs Batman in Batman Returns. She stabs him with her cat.
Anne
cat.
Hathaway was iffy because she kind of did lead him
She
to get
robbed she robbed the old man at
she
one
did
point.
lead him to get his lead him to get his back broken.
Yeah.
He was
But then
just sitting
but then
around.
she allowed him to break her back in Europe.
Yeah,
So I
that's
think
that's really all you can do after that, right?
you
Like,
understand? And they
I'm
say Nolan
sorry.
doesn't know poetry. Like this
I'm
is
sorry you got your back broken. Here is my kitty butt.
yes. Um I don't even know really how she got cat powers. They like lick her fingers and bite her
It
fingers.
was she died and they brought her back to life. It was like it was after the Batman, the first Batman movie was not like it wasn't grounded, so to speak. It was very fantastical, but we hadn't gone to like the weirdness, that we get to in Batman Returns.
Yeah.
Uh, it was out there. It was out. It was very out there.
Burton was feeling pretty confident about his vision. He was like, this
He
is
was like, "All right, here's what we can do now. We got a zombie hot Catwoman
yeah,
and an
yeah, yeah.
actual real Penguin Man."
Yeah,
Which
like
it
a
worked.
freak show in a circus. To the point that they gave him all the like it's like they had the leftover Joker goons or something like that, the circus, and they're just
he,
like,
went, he went too far, and the McDonald's people were like, "Hey,
yeah,
this is nuts."
we're not allowing this. Um, uh, like Selena feels like an S for me. Are we going on A? Or are you selling it B even for her blondness? Where do you sit on with?
She's a B tier for me. You can put her S if you like her that much. I know the movie's great, but I don't know about an S tier. I don't know about S tier.
Well, I'm trying to see. I'm trying to see then who else makes this movie. They're right here in front of us. So
Yeah,
who
yeah,
else would you
we're
say
getting there.
makes this movie? Uh, would you put DeVito as S tier?
DeVito. I honestly, I was thinking hard on it. I was thinking hard on it because S tier is like special. It's like
Oh yeah, 100%.
perfection. Like that was perfect. And DeVito is probably there. Like as when it comes to Penguin portrayals,
Yeah,
he's pretty influential. Like his
yeah.
Penguin, even like people don't go they don't go all crazy with the whole one in a he was like a Harvey Weinstein esque
Oh right,
Penguin deal, but
right.
just the demeanor and the way he looks and the way he portrayed the Penguin, it's still you can still see it to this day.
I think it's also one of the darkest plans. He wants to murder all the first born children of Gotham.
He's
Like that, and he like at one point successfully like kidnaps a bunch, like just goes to through people's houses and successfully kidnaps a bunch of kids. That's not
He
That's
was
not great. And
very
then
successful at being a bad person.
yes, yeah, and was a bit of the shadow to Bruce, right? It was that idea of like the Cobblepotts and the Waynes, and he was very envious of Bruce and how where that all took him, being someone of privilege, and as soon as they started to fight back against him, he just struck back at them and seemingly wanted to kill all their people. So I
I
mean,
He's also the only villain, the main villain of the Burton movies that doesn't bother me with their origin. So
uh,
there's that.
the whole carriage getting thrown off the bridge thing.
It's fine.
The Moses scene in the beginning of the of the film where
And he
the
wants
where
to
the
kill the firstborn children because he's Moses. That's a really that doesn't work that way.
no, it
I'm not
doesn't. So I'll put Selena. It would be, you want to put DeVito S tier?
I'll put him S tier if it's up to me. DeVito was an S tier Batman villain.
I can agree with that. I can agree with that. Max Shrek. I like Max Shrek, bro. I like what a what
He
a scumbag.
he is a piece of trash. He really is a piece of trash. I guess the thing that keeps him from being a high tier for me is that he's pretty
Yeah.
much a, a generic bad guy. Like anybody could be Max Shrek. I
Yeah.
forgot his name until you
Just said
mentioned it right now.
it.
And I very clearly remember everything he does. I killed the ice queen or whatever her name
Yep.
was.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
it's just that I don't. He didn't really have anything that stood out about him beyond his like white hair and Christmas movie villain theme
And
look.
Batman, no, Bruce Wayne, why are you dressed like the Batman? Because he is Batman, you idiot. I always love, I always love when Bruce Wayne rips off his fruit roll up mask. He just rips it like
It's
it's
so weird because it looks so stiff the whole movie. And then it's like,
rips it off. A stiff breeze rips
like
it off his face.
so. So how many of those do you have? Because that looks expensive. Just
I
rip them
I
off
didn't
of
think
you.
about it.
It's a
He's
flaw.
he's also very, I mean, I think in keeping with the 90s in general, just like a parody of Trump. Like I feel like he's
It feels
one
that
of
way.
these one of these various rich people who don't have any morals and are willing to cut corners. Um so here's the thing. I'd like Shrek to go B, but if Shrek goes B, Selena got to go up because
Yeah.
I don't think that they're on the same tier. But maybe Shrek is a C level villain. Maybe I need
Yeah,
to come to that
yeah, no.
realization right now.
Listen, you could be C or D and very well like it's just that that's what you are. You're a C tier, even D tier villain. Like
No, you know what?
what?
I think that I think it's fair for Max to be C and set the standard for C. You know,
Okay,
and then anyone under that is just, yeah, D's. Nuts. But yes, yeah, that movie was terrifying. But still one of my favorites. But like you said, when you think about it, the murder of the Ice Queen, the whole abandonment of a baby in a river, there's several really, really, really dark elements to this that somehow weirdly work. Um, and created a bunch of cool and crazy characters. A bit now, even if you even looking at them, they're all monochromatic. They're all black and white and gray. Those three characters, and it's about to get very colorful when Schumacher gets a hold of these Batman films with Batman Forever. Um, Two Face, Harvey Dent, James. I was gonna say James Earl Jones, Tommy Lee Jones, his brother.
James Earl Jones is the greatest Batman.
uh, Tommy Lee Jones.
Tommy Lee Jones,
Tommy Lee
Agent.
Jones. Where does I do not like this portrayal of Two Face. I think that it is misinformed in various ways. If there was a time where I was not digging Two Face because I thought this was the only, like, this is what it was, you know. Um, to It's almost tragic to skip over the entirety of the DA stuff.
Yeah.
Like to just jump over that, like yada yada through that, feels weird. I'm also upset that the only reason why his other half of the face isn't burned is because he had a folder. He had like a manila folder and he put it up and somehow that blocked the acid from going into the rest of his face. And he still got acid directly straight down. Like his burns are directly straight up and down his face.
Manila
Um
folders are the world's #1 defense against acid. You should know this.
I liked his polyamorous relationship. I thought that was very progressive.
Yeah.
And how both sides got their own girlfriend. I thought that was pretty cool.
It was cool, and then you really what year was this? 96?
Yeah, 90s,
Things
yeah,
were a little
95.
extreme back then. Yeah, 95. We were getting
Yeah.
there. We were really getting there.
um
Extreme.
yeah, and it's like his suit, the other sides of the suits are not burnt. They're just like really weird zoot suits with just weird tiger stripes or whatever. This is strange. This is strange, man. I'm willing to go C for
I would
him, but
I would go D. That's a
you would
D
go
tier.
you go
Yeah,
D?
absolutely. Absolutely.
All right.
D tier Two-Face portrayal doesn't it's absolutely like you said, inaccurate, shallow, even
Yeah.
lacking of depth that
Yeah.
Two-Face has. And Two-Face is a very uh deep character, you know?
I'm just thinking like he also like you were talking about shallow. They also give him like an incredibly shallow death where they throw a bunch of coins and he's like my coins. Like that was like like that
You
was
know,
it for the character.
what do you think Tommy Lee fucking Jones thought he's reading this shit? He's gotta
Bro,
like
I have a theory that Tommy Lee Jones like just wanted to do Nicholson's Riddler for this. Like didn't even care what character he was playing. He just wanted to do that, slapsticky, character for this. And
he said he looks like he's having fun. I would
yeah,
like to try that.
and he looks like he got paid a bunch of fucking money for this. So I'm totally down for that. Um it was very funny because it was noted on set that Tommy Lee Jones and his co-star Jim Carrey, the Riddler, did not get along.
Really?
Okay, I shouldn't say did not get along. Jim Carrey had no beef with Tommy Lee Jones, but apparently Tommy Lee Jones, uh, like at one point, Jim Carrey went to a restaurant, uh, to kind of like introduce himself to Tommy Lee Jones and be like, "Hey, we're working together and stuff." And Tommy Lee Jones pulled him to the side and said, "I will not sanction your buffoonery."
What the fuck?
Yeah, I will not sanction your buffoonery. So, yeah, I guess maybe he saw like the Ace Ventura ass talking stuff and thought he was gonna come and bring that shit over to.
That's such a weird idea that like this guy does funny movies. He must be a goofball in real life, and I bet this set is atrocious.
But
Like
then look at what he did with Two Face. So it's like, what are you?
that just doesn't even like I understand being a snobby Hollywood elitist, especially back then. I mean, he's already old, so he's been in the Hollywood for like 30 freaking years, and but
Yeah,
it's just such a weird it's a low IQ thought process. Like it
yeah,
really
yeah.
is.
But I think the other side of that coin, no pun intended, is Jim Carrey's Riddler. Um, that
Yeah.
I like this Riddler, but I sit in a weird position with it because I also think that it's not very comic booky.
Well, what at least when it came to the Riddler, he was a lot less I don't want to say less defined. He did have his own lore, but it wasn't as deep or even compelling as anything like Mr. Freeze or
Yeah,
Poison Ivy even. So there was
yeah,
room to play with. And I think for the tone of the film and for everything they were going for, I think it fit in pretty freaking perfectly.
yeah, yeah. I also think the transformation works from this like kind of meek, but obviously uh outgoing. Like he's both meek and outgoing because when he's by himself, he's silly and telling jokes, and his whole, he has like one of those weird fortune teller people in his house. So he's obviously eccentric. so it works when he starts being a bad guy. He's overly eccentric. All the staff work, like, come on, bro, that's killer. That's S tier staff work, at the very least. How he's working that staff in this film, and when I think of Batman Forever, I think of that scene of them destroying the Bat Cave. That we never saw anything come of. But
It happened.
I distinctly remember, all the pelvic thrusts and the explosions and the
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, I remember. I distinctly remember all that. So where does Jim Carrey's Riddler sit on the tier of tiers?
Jim Carrey is a B tier villain, a B tier Batman villain for me. I wouldn't go A because there's still like some glaring issues. But for all that it's worth, and especially in these Shoemaker Batman movies, Schumacher, they I think B is pretty high. I think it's gonna be the highest I'll go for any of the rest of them too.
I think that he can sit comfortably with B. I with Selena there, like, I'd still watch a film with they if those two came back.
Yeah, we can see the Batman, but
Yeah.
with these two versions of the Riddler and Selena Kyle instead, but acted out the same way with the same exact script, and
Yeah.
they bring their tone. It's
Yeah.
weird. It'd be
Yeah.
great.
um I don't even know what to say for these next crop of people, but Bane, Batman and Robin. I think this is right there with Two Face in the sense that, like, I, I remember getting my education from about Bane from Batman the Animated Series,
Yeah.
and him being so articulate and dangerous and all of it. Like, I think that the size is the most perfect part of this character. For me, I liked the transformation when I saw it in the film, but almost everything else from top to bottom, absolute, like, just not great.
It's this Bane is honestly one of the worst Batman film villains of all time. Like
Yeah.
it's if we were utilizing F tier here, he would be F tier.
Yeah,
But
I
because
agree.
we're not going lower than D, he can sit there at the bottom of D. He's a low D. He's a
what
low D.
what do you think was the most egregious change for this?
It's not even about the change, like you said. We're at this point. We're at the point here, and the next two villains are gonna have the same issue where they're like really shitty, childish, shallow versions of what they are. Even at this point in time, what is it, 95?
Yeah,
You could have
seven.
still got
This seven.
97. You could have still
Yeah.
got some more compelling stories out of these characters, especially Mr. Freeze. By 97, he was established as something really cool. We're gonna get to him, but
Yeah.
the Bane thing, it's that issue. It's that issue. The shallowness and the crappiness.
Yeah, it's weird because, um like I said, they made him almost a mute. Like, he only said his own name, which was weird. Like, there's no
They took
evidence prior that that's all he did. So you would think that
They
that's a
took the
Venom thing.
strength thing. They took the strength thing, and that's it. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We that is it. We didn't even try. We didn't even. They didn't even create anything to replace the rest of Bane. They were just
No.
like, give us this husk of Bane.
No, no, and that's the Floronic Man also. That's Jason Woodgrew as the
Holy is there?
scientist. Yeah, that's Jason
Wow.
Woodgrew as the scientist, in that they just throw him away. Like, they have the wherewithal to know who he is and make him be that in the thing, but not the wherewithal to be like, let's like, they pulled out the Pharaonic Man, but they couldn't tell us that Bane was a prisoner and all this other kind of stuff, and it just felt very, very strange. And then he had to be green, very other strange choice, I guess, because of the venom. It makes him green.
They were really, really focused on making those toys.
Yeah,
That's really what
yeah.
it was. Which is
Um, my so I had that theory that I told you about earlier, which is that I think that Jack Nicholson's um Joker very much influenced Tommy Lee Jones's Two-Face. I swear, Uma Thurman's just doing Eartha Kitt. Like, she's doing her Catwoman with Poison Ivy. Even sort of talking in that like a Hollywood starlet,
Yeah.
kind of stuff. Um, I remember really liking her as a kid, probably for reasons that have nothing to do with my Batman fandom.
It was an
I like
awakening.
I like Uma Thurman as an actress. Where does she sit? Where does this go? Very meek scientist with glasses gets pushed into some chemicals that involve some plants. She dies, then rises from the ground as Poison Ivy with poison lips, and puts Batman and Robin against one another, for the poon. So
I don't I don't hate Uma Thurman's Poison Ivy as much as I hate Bane.
yeah, that's fair.
Uh, I feel like there was it resembled Poison Ivy a lot more than Two Face or Bane resembled who their characters are. Even
Yes,
though there were very large issues, like like again, like I said, this is these '90s Bat films where the whole idea is making toys. It doesn't matter. We
yeah,
don't need a compelling story. We need some very flat, colorful villains that Batman can beat up, and they'll challenge him, but not really. You know,
yeah,
like it
yeah.
was. It's really crappy. It's really, especially when we're so spoiled today. But even trying to look at it in its own little vortex in its bubble, I think they did a decent job. A
And you say
what was
B
that?
is the highest you'd go for this, right?
For her, C. I would go C.
That's the highest.
Yeah,
Do you think she's the same as Max Shrek though?
I think that she is not as good as Jim Carrey's Riddler or the Catwoman.
Okay.
Mm. That's like she can't sit in that tier with them. She can
I
sit
think that I think that's fair. I think that's fair. She is above Bane.
absolutely no 100%. I think if anything, you should put her in front of Max Shrek.
She should be the standard of that. He's the low end of C's. He's the
Yeah,
lower C. She's the
yeah.
higher C. That makes sense. The man of the hour, Arnold Schwarzenegger as
Everybody chill.
as Mr. Freeze. Possibly the biggest joke. He's who people point to when they think about like the series kind of going downhill, depending on
Yeah.
what you like, what you don't. I think I think that we've gotten to a point as a society where people are more accepting of the idea that those movies were kind of meant to be a little bit tongue in cheek. Does that change his uh does that change him in your favor, knowing that it's kind of my biggest issue is, honestly, I hate the suit.
Yeah.
I I
The weird,
really I really dislike it. I don't understand it. It feels Power Ranger-y.
it's
Like
much
it
like the '90s comics. Like the more lines something had, it was more. What's the word they use? Toyetic.
Oh my
It's
gosh. It 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 looks like the Megazord. It looks like the Megazord Ivan Ooze made when he made his own Megazord. I swear they had it left over or something. You took away the red eyes, the red, the goggles.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
those are that's it. But one of my like biggest things about this character is just the like I can't express how cool it is, in my opinion, that a single episode of an animated television show would completely change a character from top to bottom, create this origin, Heart of Ice, that is so fire that it immediately enters into a film. Like almost the first chance that it can get, they want to tell this story that was basically created whole cloth, on an animated television show. And I think there's portions of that they get right. They nail the Nora stuff. They nail the origin stuff. You know, it's when he's there in the fuzzy slippers that I'm just rolling my eyes. When he's there in the bathrobe, or all of the ice puns, or the weird diamonds, or
Yeah.
whatever.
I, that kind of stuff is actually I don't want to say it's redeemable because it isn't. It's still a bad version of Mr. Freeze, especially when they were presented with something so compelling. But
Right.
at least it was entertaining. It was funny. I don't want to say I was entertained by the film and satisfied, but if you
Right.
go back and watch those clips of Arnold Schwarzenegger hamming it up as Mr. Freeze, it's pretty freaking funny. I, he's still gonna end up on the D tier, but it's very funny. I
Do you think that this portrayal of Mr. Freeze has halted further portrayals of Mr. Freeze?
I think it might have at one point, but we're also I feel like we're past a lot of that kind of stuff. Because then look at Riddler right now
Yeah.
in the Batman. He's
Yeah.
been completely reinvented in the eyes of the public.
Yeah.
You can
I
do it
feel like
again.
those I feel like those four in general, Riddler, Penguin, Catwoman, and Joker, are always in a state of flux of redefine and stuff like that. Because even all four of those were prominent characters in Gotham as well. So I thought that was interesting there. So you want to put him in B?
No, absolutely not.
Oh,
Whoa,
see?
no. I was you. Would you put him in C? I would leave him in D tier. I just thought he was funny.
Oh, D.
Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
go.
Oh, I really.
I'd go C. I'd go C for the teardrop. I'd go C for. Can you give me the teardrop?
I give it to you. He like I said, he was at least entertaining
Yeah.
compared to the other two.
Right. Right. I'm still thinking of that Manila folder. Just fucking. Thank the Lord. Saved his sight. Um. Not. I keep getting these. Yeah. Salvatore Moroni. Right. Or is this
Yep.
no? This is Carmine Falcone.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh.
Salvatore Moroni's from Dark Knight. He's in Dark Knight. He's the one who gets his ankles broken when they drop him on there. But yeah, now we're getting to some serious territory, and the first kind of a villain with no bones about him, just straight up regular man, organized crime, is Carmine Falcone from Dark Knight. I'm sorry, from the Dark Knight trilogy, but more specifically, Batman Begins in 2005, and like the move here, the flex move for me was always when they're sitting in that diner and he's like, I got
Yeah,
judges over here, I got people over there. Like, what do you get? This bum, I'm gonna get you kicked out of here. And he gets,
that's my favorite scene in that movie. I love that
yeah,
guy.
it really shows you how much power he holds over Gotham. And then like I said, like it's Bruce freaking Wayne. Like he's Gotham's son, and he still gets him kicked out on his ass in the
I
narrow.
just
It's
like
like,
how unprepared Bruce was, and utterly unprepared for the kind of power that Moroni had at that
yeah,
point.
yep. It's he's also the one that is captured when you get the big Batman reveal. Like he's Batman's first. You could say he's Batman's first foe, right? Like the first successful.
Yeah, you
Um,
could say that. It's accurate to the lore. I will
yeah,
if you will.
yeah. So where does I was gonna call him Moroni again? Where does Falcone sit? And also, I've heard several different YouTubers, and they go back and forth on Falcone and Falcone, all willy nilly because there's an e at the end of it. I'm pretty sure it's Falcone, but
It might be Falcone, but I've been saying Falcone for so
yeah,
long.
hey
Yeah,
Falcone,
it's like Falcone.
yeah,
It's the family Falcone, Familia Falcone.
Familia Falcone. So yeah, man, Falcone has been this a big character in the comics. You know, Long Halloween stuff like that.
Year
Where do you
one,
think this? Yeah, year one. Where do you think this portrayal should go?
I think it was a great portrayal of Falcone. However, I also don't. I wouldn't put it on the same level as like the Joker, Jack Nicholson's Joker, or the Batman '66 TV villains, the Rogues Gallery, the original OG Rogues Gallery. I
Yeah,
don't think
yeah.
that this Falcone slash Falcone can sit up there with them. So he would absolutely be like a high tier B for me.
I I'd go B as well. Like I said, like just played fearlessly, play like an actual boss. It's you totally believable. Obviously, once he gets into the custody of the police, he is then accosted by Jonathan Crane,
Yeah.
uh, Cillian Murphy. That's the actor's name, I believe. who was
Uh,
almost Batman. He tried out for Batman, for Bruce Wayne Batman.
is that?
Um,
I didn't know that.
yeah, he tried out, and I guess they're like, you look more like a psychopathic psychiatrist.
They were like, he's bugging me out with his eyes. I don't
Yeah.
know if he can be Bruce.
Uh, and so yeah, Scarecrow. We got Cillian Murphy. We got Scarecrow. Where do you think Scarecrow goes here?
Scarecrow is another one that I didn't hate it at all. I thought he did a great job. I thought it was a very accurate portrayal of the character. I thought Murphy did a wonderful job as who he was, and when he comes back later on,
Yeah.
uh, I think he's a great B tier for me.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I think B tier is fair. My only argument against him would it's not really even against him. I don't think we got enough of him. You know,
Yeah, that's true.
like we should have played more into why he relishes in making people afraid. Like where does that come from? I wouldn't say he was ill defined. The way that they did that trilogy made Gotham feel like these things were going on, and we just kind of stepped in for a second to watch the events unfold for a certain amount of years.
Yeah.
So he felt like a lived-in character. I felt believable, but we never really got things from his angle.
Did they skip over the whole mother thing? They never mentioned that, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a
Uh,
big B tier for me.
yeah. Huge. This is huge. The cinematic debut of Ra's al Ghul,
Ra's al Ghul or
uh,
Roz. They let you
or
say it.
Raz.
They say Roz in these movies.
I've definitely heard Ra's
I love
before.
Ra's. Ra's is how I say it.
Um, but I think I've also heard Raz, unless I'm mixing up. Maybe Arrow has said it
But I want to
differently
say,
as well.
did this movie not like accept both names?
I would say so. That's what I'm saying. I think some people called them under one, and some people called them the other, and no one really argued against it.
I'll just say it flat out too. But I love Liam Neeson as freaking Ra's al Ghul. Like,
Yeah,
I loved it, and I know people are like, you know, they whitewashed Ra's al Ghul, and
yeah,
I
that's true.
understand that. That is a very valid argument. Uh, I'm not invalidating that. I just think like Liam Neeson is like a high tier actor. He just does like bad movies nowadays, but he's still, I believe, a high tier actor.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And he said some problematic things in the past before.
he
You
has
know,
said
we
some things too. But I mean, listen, I'm weird about artists and art.
yeah,
When it came to the art, I think Ra's al Ghul here was great. I think Liam Neeson killed it. I know that the Nolan trilogy is grounded, and I know people hate it. I know people hate the way they did this in Rises, but was I really liked the he's not immortal because this is a grounded world, but he's immortal because he's still coming after you with Talia.
yeah,
I
yeah,
like
yeah.
I liked that. I liked it. I think they wasted Talia in Rises, but we'll get to that. But I like
I
the
th-
way it came around for Raish.
I think I think using him to sort of kind of explain the other sorts of training that Batman got was genius.
That
Uh,
they turned him into Henry Ducard. What's the
well,
original name?
no,
N-
that's isn't it Ducard? It is Ducard.
It
Is it
is
Henry?
Ducard, but I always get the Batman Begins name and the real name confused because they're both Ducard. I think one is Mealy Ducard and one is Henry or something like that.
I'm about to find out right
Yeah,
now. But they call him Henry Ducard in the thing as well, right? In
yeah.
the
They
film.
mixed the two characters. They mixed Ra's al Ghul and Batman's real accurate lore trainer, which is very cool.
It's all everything I'm looking up coming up Henry with
Okay,
an I though.
Henry Ducard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Henry Ducard. But yeah, man, like, and then to add that element in as well, like to pull the deep cut of Henry Ducard, to use Raish in this the way that they did, the League of Shadows, the like ninja parts of Batman in this film really carry it for me. I'd put him A or above.
Yeah, I got him at an A tier. Same.
Okay,
Yep.
I think we could put him at A tier. And now the man of the hour, too
Oh
sweet
shit.
to be sour.
Here we go.
2008, the person you guys have all been waiting for,
Yes.
Lau.
Yes.
Lau. I thought about putting the rest of the mobsters, but in all actuality, like Lau's the first person that Batman's able to, besides Scarecrow, who comes back and stuff like that. Like Lau's the first new antagonist Batman has to kind of roll with and outsmart and apprehend by breaking
Together
several
with
laws. He broke
together with
so many laws.
we get to see Lucius Fox be a snippy person towards others, not just Bruce.
Yep, yep. This is
Giving someone to
wrong.
bounce off of, I should say.
Yeah, what was it? Something about like he could have just told me this over the telephone.
Yeah.
Get-
I didn't want to waste your time. Well,
He's- what a jerk.
yeah.
There's nothing inherently wrong with Lau, but I feel weird putting him with next to Two Face or yeah, putting him next to Two Face or Mr. Freeze.
He's he does the job well. He's just much like Shrek. He's just a random guy. Like he could have been anyone. Anyone could have played that position, and the story would have still been served. There's nothing memorable about the character beyond the fact that he serves the story the way he does.
You know what? When you put it that way, I agree. I think he's more on the Shrek side of C than the Mr. Freeze side of C.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd even do a bit of this, maybe even. Oh no, get your ass over there. But yeah, that works for me. I just wanted to put Lau in this whole mix. Heath Ledger's Joker. I mean, talk about redefining a character for decades. They're still trying to do it, bro. They're still trying to bite at the apple. Um, I remember when he was first cast initially, I was one of those people that was like, isn't he like kind of hot off of Brokeback Mountain right now? Like, is that a frame of reference for this Joker? Like, how am I supposed to kind of gauge? Like, I only knew him from like 10 Things I Hate About You and Knight's Tale, and I liked those two films, but I didn't see a homicidal maniac in them.
I
Um,
didn't I didn't know anything about him. I knew the Brokeback Mountain thing, but what I knew about Brokeback Mountain became a tongue twister.
yeah.
Brokeback Mountain. What I knew about Brokeback Mountain was that my grandma would say it was a good movie. Like
Okay.
she would say all the time it was a good movie because we were kids. We would make fun. Brokeback Mountain, whatever. But she would say it was a good movie. So when they said it was going to be Heath Ledger from Brokeback Mountain, obviously they were the jokes. The Joker's going to do what? But
Right.
ultimately, I get it. I know why. I'm pretty sure I can figure out why they cast this guy. Like it's going to be okay. I don't think I was ever on the oh no, the Joker's ruined train.
Yeah.
Like I never had that thrown in my face. Thankfully, I will say like there's so many good things to say, and everyone's already said them about Heath Ledger. Like every
Yeah.
possible thing you can say because he is S tier. Like it's there's no question. He's an S tier Batman villain. I
I
almost feel
agree.
weird having Penguin up there because Heath Ledger should probably be up there alone.
Yeah.
There's nothing. None of these other villains can match that portrayal, and partly because it it's the very rare instance where a movie person comes in and they decide boldly or arrogantly, whichever one you would like to go with, that
Mhm.
they're going to put their own spin on something that is loved, beloved, that has existed for decades.
Yeah.
And Heath Ledger's Joker is the very rare instance where it worked, and it worked so well that it influenced the character for years to come after that. And that was very much because of his performance.
Yeah. And it defined the character also in print. Like you understand, they started doing more horrific takes on the Joker, more dirty takes on the Joker,
They
because of this.
immediately made the Joker a rapist in the comics after this. They got too dark. It was a little
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
But
yeah,
but just to say, like, yeah, it was very a lot of people would even the contrarians would say, like, that's not even Joker. Like, everyone loves him, but like, that's not even Joker. That's just a
Right.
terrorist. Like,
Right.
but and I get that, but that's partly what makes it so legendary is that it was so different, but it was still just because it was so good, we just accepted it. Like, that is great. We will
Yeah.
take it. We will take it alongside the others that we have. We will take this new one and we will cherish it.
Well, people have kind of made a kind of loose comparison to like James Bond with Batman, right? And it's like if Batman is just James Bond with a paintbrush of theatrics to it, then why can't Joker be a terrorist with the same paintbrush? It's just like a Bond villain, right? But with a little bit of a calling card, a little bit of a moniker, if you
I
will.
could say too, like, I actually don't. I I don't think everyone should do this. Like, it doesn't work.
Oh,
A lot of
100%.
times, and almost every time it doesn't work. Almost every single time it doesn't work. But I guess what helped also is that Nolan was taking Batman's entire world and sort of grounding it and twisting it around, and making it into what Heath Ledger's Joker was, as compared to what the Joker really is. So he fits for this world and for this Batman. It fits perfectly, and
Yeah.
it's probably why it was so widely accepted.
I also think that, in my opinion, uh, when you do stuff like this, you can make changes to, source material and stuff like that to better fit your world. But for the most part, you get the pass to make those changes when you've already committed to some very universal standards to the source material. If we can trust that you've gotten the bigger themes right, the little stuff in the middle you can mess around with. And while I think that they kind of created Heath Ledger's Joker on a blank canvas, just using kind of the tracing of the Joker and then putting on their own sort of design on top of that, I think Harvey Dent, Aaron Eckhart, Two Face, I think he is possibly the best translation of a character to cinema when it comes to Batman villains. Like I'm sitting here listening to everything you're saying about Joker, and he's almost the antithesis of that in
Yeah.
design, but perfectly. Again, like you said, perfectly. Like it's it's the reason, like, I totally watched The Dark Knight for Heath Ledger's Joker, and I have loved The Dark Knight for Heath Ledger's Joker, but I started to appreciate The Dark Knight because I'm looking at it more as Harvey's story. And when you look at it through that lens, from beginning to end, from the Rachel all the way to the end of his death, um, it's possibly it brought to mind to me that it's possibly one of the most tragic Batman stories, just the quintessential fall from grace of Harvey Dent, and how Harvey is always going to remain a casualty of Gotham. Is just
Yeah.
this, like, what a mythology for Batman. What a mythology for that city, that it has a casualty. It took a body. It took Harvey Dent, and everyone could always say that. Everyone could always know that.
It Gotham, even in that Gotham, even worse. It's taken like many bodies. It's just it's the idea that it doesn't deserve a hero. Like the line
Yeah,
at the end
yeah,
of the day.
yeah,
I
yeah,
also, it's kind of like, we see the fall of Harvey Dent, right? And it's the best possible portrayal of Harvey Dent because the character of Harvey Dent fits perfectly in this world.
yeah.
But it's we almost never get to see him be a
That's
villain.
true.
Like, he was very much a hero in this movie, and
Oh, oh,
almost
yeah,
all the way through. Almost
yeah.
all the way through. I mean, he was pretty damn angry at the end, rightfully so. Like,
He has his revenge tour at the end. When he shoots the limo driver, and
yeah,
he
yeah.
pistol whips that cop, and he but I mean, at one point he's ready to kill Gordon's son just for
Yeah, yeah,
revenge. Like,
yeah.
that's
Take the baby.
Like it gets big, he tells him to he. There's, I mean, that's what I'm saying. You gotta put some respect on my man's name. There's a point in which he tells Gordon to tell his son that everything's gonna be okay, just like I had to tell Rachel that everything's gonna be okay. Like there's some dark, my man does some dark moments in this, and even before then, when he puts the gun up to David Desmalchin's head, the criminal in
Yeah,
from Suicide Squad, like he shows like this almost like levels of big bad Harv there, like almost like
yeah,
you keep messing with him, there is this darker streak before he gets his face charred off. So I'm saying A or up. You
yeah.
argue?
I would even go S. I would even go S with Harvey because he's so good. It's just that he I would even go S. I think I would go S. I don't see any argument as to why he can't be up there.
That's
I really
you
don't.
know what my biggest thing for S tier is? Would I watch an entire film with just this portrayal? No
Yeah,
other villains in it. And yeah, I
absolutely.
would. I
With
totally would.
all three of the people in S tier right now, I absolutely would.
Yeah. It's funny because on the look of it, it looks like DeVito's penguin shouldn't be there, but he totally should. Just the look, just how it looks, because he looks
Yeah.
ridiculous. But that's funny. Okay, and then we had Dark Knight Rises. So Dark Knight Rises gives us a brand new Bane in Tom Hardy's Bane. Another bite of the apple for Bane, but then another sort of kind of butt of the jokes. He did a lot of great things in this, but there's a lot of people that just couldn't get over the voice of it all. It's still being parodied to this day. But he
Urgh.
brought the he brought the intellect that we wanted to see. I love it on Harley Quinn, the Harley Quinn show.
Yeah.
He's great. He's great.
Bane. I'm Bane.
I oh this chair is my reckoning. All of that, all that stuff is so hilarious. Uh, I don't think I've ever gotten your take on this Bane. I mean, a lot of people, I feel like were divisive about this portrayal.
Well, I will. I don't know if it's surprising or not. I don't. First, I don't hate Dark Knight Rises. I don't. I
Okay.
know a lot of people like. I think it's a bad movie. I'm just like, how? Like
Yeah, I
it's
don't think
like
it's
not
bad.
a bad
I think it's a
movie.
bit long, but I wouldn't
I
say it was
think
bad.
I think it suffers from not being as good as the Dark Knight. Really, it's like that's the
I
biggest thing. Really, it's like nothing is as good as the Dark
Yeah,
Knight.
yeah.
Sorry, but
I think Rises could have actually been one of the first comic book part ones, part twos.
it could have.
I think if
Could
you
have.
would have ended with the back break somehow and
Yeah.
found a way to come back in the second film with the rise of the little rises, right? Uh,
I
I
think
think that
Nolan
could have
was
been,
done though. He was like, no, no more of this.
bro. It could have been Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, Nightfall, Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Nightfall. That's
yes,
great.
man.
That's a great
Uh,
name after the Dark
yeah,
Knight.
yeah. And but yeah, like he had all the smarts. He had a cool little mask.
I I um I dug the whole Wall Street thing, especially at the time. Like
Yeah,
that was a big deal. So it was very topical and it's almost timeless because those themes don't ever really disappear. We're all still living under the thumb of the of the corporate 1% or
no, totally.
so
And you
again
gotta give the power to the people. To the
I didn't
people.
I didn't hate this portrayal of Bane. I don't think it was Bane though. I think this was a almost a swing and a miss. Like when it came
Yeah,
to what Nolan was able to do with Joker, maybe he tried to do again with Bane as
right.
to give his own interpretation and try to fit within the lines, but I think it didn't work ultimately. I don't hate him though. I enjoyed him for this film. I enjoyed him for this world. I think he kind of got wasted at with the twist at the end. I was like, that's
Yeah.
really weird. Not sure why we did that. And we took away the
I
one
yeah. I feel
cool
like
thing that we gave him.
very similar to Game of Thrones, like how people now view that series almost literally just on how it ended. It's
Yeah,
hard for me to see Bane because of I really think that they fumbled that League of Shadows
yep,
Al Ghul stuff. I really
yep.
like it felt left field. I don't think it served the character or made me feel better about the character in any way. And yeah, it just really didn't sit well. The other stuff, like I said, is really really cool. That weird thing that they came up with, that weird chant
Yeah.
that they would do for the
Yeah, I don't know it. I don't know it. I should know it. I'm a bad fan. I should.
that was I have always just said it's fish pasta. Pasta.
Pasha.
Yeah, fish, pasta, pasta, fish, pasta, pasta. He rises. Someone made me some spaghetti. But but where does that make him sit then? Where does he obviously doesn't sit in D.
No, no, he's not that bad. Not at all.
Mm.
I, I would put him on a if I honestly I feel bad putting him in a C because I don't think he's as bad as I don't think he's as good as some of the B's though.
Yeah,
I,
I agree with you.
I don't know. I mean, I guess we could put him in C. I guess I would go with C with Bane, with Tom Hardy's Bane. Bane.
Brain.
Burn.
I'm a B at best. Um, Talia Al Ghul. Talk about like
He's completely wasted.
yeah. And I also remember that I was a bit tied up in the military when all this had came out, like promotional stuff. I came out for it, but like they were like set photos of her in like this tunic, and so there was a bunch of people that were like, "Oh, she's Talia," and then and then they do the movie, and they're like, "Oh, this shrouded in mystery, this woman," and then it's like, "Oh, she's Talia." I was like, "Yeah, yeah, we knew that she was standing on top of a tank, and she was wearing a tunic and she was standing on top of a tank." I like Marion Cotillard. I really like that actress. But nothing here. And I wish her allure for Bruce would have been more tied to her respect for her father, but it's just a weird like I heard my dad said had some beef with you and now we got beef.
It's like I mentioned earlier how I liked that the way that Ra's al Ghul is immortal in this grounded world is that his fight continues with his legacy, his
Yeah,
seed.
yeah,
But beyond that, that's about the only redeemable thing I liked. And it was even that was fumble. It was just if they hadn't mentioned that in a line of exposition, I might not have picked up on it
right.
because like you said, her situation with Bruce was never they never took time to define it or how it related to her father's mission or how did she relate to her father's mission and what did she think about it and how did she fit into the plans and what happened
Yeah.
what happened when he died. There was a lot that could have been done with Talia Al Ghul. And honestly, Talia is one of my favorite Batman villains.
That's
Just
awesome.
because of their weird fucking relationship.
Yeah, yeah.
They have a child.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
how many villains does he have a child with? Just one.
That's true.
Two. Two. I guess
Ah,
two.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
God, this guy's got
It's
issues.
out of control. Out of control.
Yeah, no, absolutely wasted one of my favorite Batman villains here. There's nothing Talia about her. Even there was no chemistry between her and Bruce. I
That's what I'm
felt
saying.
like
I didn't feel like this that
they
that
just have
allure.
sex, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, they want to bang. I guess.
Yeah,
With
you're supposed to get like now I define it as that Electra Daredevil from the show. Kind of like
yeah,
we're terrible for each other, but any chance we get we're gonna screw because we're
but
both attractive and
that's what it should have been. That's what it's supposed
right,
to be.
right, right,
I never felt that. I never
right.
felt anything. I
Yeah,
never felt anything. It was very, very flat.
yeah,
Sad.
yeah. She didn't get to stab Batman though.
She did. She was like, "Ha! This is my
Yeah.
heel. I'm a
Surprise.
bad person." I get
Yep.
it. You
And he was
bad,
like, "Oh, Lucius told me I could get stabbed."
bitch.
Exactly what he told me. I could get stabbed. So you want to go C or she D?
For me personally, it's because I love Talia so much, and because this was such a letdown. I'll go D. And
I,
this is
I
weird. It's weird, like, because I like the movie, right? It's
yeah.
I like the movie. I really do. I swear I do. You couldn't tell by my choices. I put the two main villains down at the bottom, but I enjoy the story of the film.
But no, but that goes to show what you were just talking about, right? Like it like begins has like middling to pretty high level villains. Dark Knight, the best of the best, and these were like just okay to kind of failing.
Yeah,
It really goes to show the spectrum of that film. At certain points when those villains do fail, Batman's able to hold the entertainment. He's able to hold the rest of the film. But on occasion, Batman films are kind of hinged on the villains on occasion, especially the
yeah.
Burton
No,
ones.
Batman's rogue gallery is
Yeah,
his thing. Like that's one of his gimmicks. That's one of his whole
yeah.
thing. If you can't get that right, then you failed.
Well, I'm glad you said that line because it looks like we're in the not gotten right portion of,
Yeah,
of
we're
the.
gonna be stuck in the not gotten right for a while now.
It felt unfair. It felt truly unfair to not name any people, any antagonist towards Ben Affleck's Batman. I know he's a lot of people's favorite. I believe he's actually yours, right? Are you
He's my favorite Batman.
Batfleck?
Yeah, listen, he is the Dark Knight Returns Batman. The Dark Knight Returns Batman is an alternate version of
Yeah,
Batman, but
yeah,
he's
totally.
my favorite Batman because I love that damn story.
Right.
Uh, he unfortunately never got his own movie, so we'll never get to see him up against a villain.
In a solo
Like,
film, yeah.
yeah, but technically, Batman v Superman is his movie. Like, it's
Yeah.
told from his perspective, and he's got the billing on the marquee.
Which means, fortunately or unfortunately, we have to rank his villain in BVS, Lex
God
Luthor.
damn it. So
Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor. I considered putting Doomsday in this, but
yeah.
I don't, I only had room for one CGI gray thing. I picked the Whedon's version. But yeah, my biggest beef about this Lex Luthor is that I feel like people have written essays about how this could be our Lex. Like I feel like there's become almost an exercise in explaining things that not even the film did to kind of make him fit. And I just don't think he does. I just think that literally, if you called him any other name, if you gave him any other alias, if you made him
I thought
Daggett,
he I thought he was a good I thought he would have been a great Riddler.
yeah.
Like
People were saying
before.
arcade at one point when they first saw the pictures and stuff like
No,
that.
I got heavy Riddler vibes from this whimsical Lex Luthor that
Like, hey,
almost.
who, he,
Yeah, yeah,
who.
like I always for a person like again for a person who enjoyed the movie, I always thought Lex was one of the biggest failings of it.
Yeah,
It's not it's funny because his plan, and if you break it, if you look at it, if you list it, if you think about it and say it out loud in words, it's a very Lex Luthor plan.
it's
It is.
incredibly elaborate. Yeah,
Yeah, it would have worked a lot better with a different portrayal of the character because I was this weirdo, whimsical, whoo flippy fairy Lex Luthor, uh, capable of even thinking of these things. He's like entirely unstable. He's cutting himself off in the middle of his own speeches. It was very weird. And it was not Lex at all. Like I think at some point people were just like, "That's not even Lex. That's Lex Junior. The Lex
right.
that we know is dead. That was his father." You know, like it was so weird and off that people had to try to, like you said, come up with reasons why they
Yeah, the
can't
essays are
possibly
just like,
be.
well, what you don't understand is, and I'm like, no, he's not good. Like, what's going on here? And like I said, there's levels of there was one thing that Kevin Smith said that I think could have literally fixed it all is if they would have made Lex like devout Christian.
Why?
Because if they would have made Lex a devout Christian, his story about still being beaten by his father would create this rift of whether or not gods do exist or not. Because if they do, they can't be all good, right? Like he's saying, like if God's around, why is he letting me get slapped up? And now we have this man who says that who people are depicting as a god. well, he must be bad too. He must let bad things happen too, because if not, then why did God let bad things happen to me? Like a weird kind of spiteful, God screwed me over, so I'm not allowing any other people to be defined or depicted as gods in this.
I don't think
If
I
you
ever
take
had a
that
problem
away,
with. I don't think I ever had a problem with his motivation. It was just if that they called him Lex Luthor. Like that was
well, that's what
my
I'm saying.
like.
He feels like a child playing in this, whereas the depictions of Superman and Batman are almost very adult, very serious. I wish they got like an older or a more
I wanted Bryan
intimidating
Cranston.
Lex.
I needed
Yeah,
Bryan Cranston. It needed to be Bryan Cranston. It needed to be him so bad.
yeah,
Like
yeah. And this is like the height of Breaking Bad. Like this is
that
like the
was
height of all that
that
stuff.
was
So that would have been
the
perfect.
perfect. I don't. I think that might have even changed people's perception on the film. Like that Lex with that demeanor, doing that plan, and
Yeah,
saying those
just
things.
just no Jolly Ranchers and stuff. But I think everything else sticks,
No
and they
Jolly
do it.
Ranchers, please. That'd be really weird, actually. To see
Yeah, yeah.
Bryan
But
Cranston Jolly Rancher in somebody's mouth. But listen, I like I said, I never had an issue with his motivation. It was just like it's weird that this guy is supposed to be Lex Luthor. Yeah, like, so he's a D tier.
I have
Villain.
no problem putting him in D tier. Um, so next up we have Jared Leto's Joker, the Suicide Squad. I guess you could even almost say post credits for Zack Snyder's Justice League as well, even though I think they might have been friends in that.
It feels like the I almost feel bad judging this Leto Joker because it's so weird his whole history as a person portraying this character. Like what we did
Or portraying characters.
for characters, like
Like Jared Leto in general, like the whole mystique that comes around that of like all this method acting, all this waiting for the performance, and then you see it, and it's just like,
oh,
okay, yeah, it's like,
okay.
so you were doing a bunch of weird stuff for that, okay,
I,
all right, I guess,
I of course liked him in the fight. Like if he only existed in the 5 minutes at the end of Zack Snyder's Justice League, I'd be like, he's fine.
yeah,
But we had to deal with the 10 minutes of him in Suicide Squad, which was not fine. It was strange. It was odd.
yes,
It was
yeah.
very. It was so weird. It's the only word I have for it. It was just. It wasn't even that it was off. It felt like 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 somebody took the Joker and wrapped him up in aluminum foil and Hot
If
Topic
it
products.
felt
It
like he
was
was doing a
weird.
bit of, it felt like he was also doing a bit of Ace Ventura. Like it also felt like he was doing a bit of like hunka hunka and bunch of like Jim Carrey stuff, and it was just like, what is going on? He like snarls on occasion. Like he definitely like was coming up with a brand, but I remember the whole thing about like, oh, like the visual of him is very evocative. You see it and you're gonna have a feeling on it. You either hate it or you love it, but you have a feeling on it, and that's important. And so, I remember almost every picture they showed of him in Zack Snyder's Justice League looks cool. It just looks cool. Like all that your crown of thorns stuff, the long hair, the red across the mouth. But it looks cool, but he feels like a concept. He even says at one point, I think in the deleted or the extended cut of the Suicide Squad, like I'm more of an idea, right?
Yeah.
And that's what he feels like. He feels like an idea that they didn't finish writing, and they just was like, "Oh snap, it's due." Yeah, go ahead.
But I
Why?
mean,
I
really,
don't
that's
know.
what he is. That's all he is. He is an idea that we never got to see finished writing. Like
Yeah,
we got the Frankenstein version of him in Suicide Squad. So we never got to see whatever that was gonna be. I can't even picture what could have been like this. It just if it was just more of this, then fuck that. But
yeah, yeah.
and then
I
the
mean, he did
five
ask
minutes,
Batman for a reach around in Zack Snyder's Justice League.
yeah, the 5 minutes of Jack Snyder's Justice League was it almost felt like a different character. Like it was just the same guy playing the Joker, but this one is Jesus or something. But like,
Yeah, 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 yeah. Or
it,
something?
didn't,
Question mark.
it didn't even feel like the same person. It's like it's so weird and disconnected, and It's a mess. The whole
Yeah.
thing is a mess, and I am glad to be rid of it.
D.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yes,
All right, letter
no
D.
question.
Your you know, the people prior to you soared so high. There was so there was still so much left for you to do. Um, Now we're here for the a 1-2 punch of Zack Snyder's Justice League Steppenwolf and Justice League's Steppenwolf. I don't think we need to say much about Justice League's. I'm ready to put him in D. He's basically D, and he's even more D because of Wonder Woman doing Ares and almost making him look very similar.
Yeah.
You know, like you're even worse for that because that just came out a couple months ago and that was so fire. And then you come out and just not good at all. But where you want to put our boy Steppenwolf, Zack Snyder's Steppenwolf?
I really like that sad Steppenwolf.
Me
I
too.
like
Me too.
Steppenwolf with a purpose, which is first like the other one. I guess one of the biggest things was like we he was so flat, but this one he looked so alien and ugly and like monstrous, but you felt for him when
Wasn't
like
that weird? That was the biggest takeaway from that film that I got that was almost like jarred against my own logic because it's like how the hell could a person like that actually resembles a human with human characteristics be less relatable than the freaking monster? And you know, just the dialogue, the stilted way that he spoke, all of it just really really worked. um I almost put in Dark Side, but then I was like, Batman didn't do anything but give him the finger, I think. So
and he would
like,
have died.
yeah, he totally would have died. um let's go with B. You ready to go with
Yeah,
B?
yeah, absolutely. Steppenwolf, the real Steppenwolf is a B tier villain. He's great. I
and
enjoyed it.
and like I said, like his journey made him a bit like pitiful, and the pitifulness added to a level of desperation that you believed. Whereas Justice Leagues is just walking around chopping up Amazons all willy nilly. So I'm not much of a fan of that. But now we are here. Look at how he created like a bit of a pyramid of sorts
Yeah,
with this thing. Um so we are here with the trifecta that is in the Batman, the three biggest villains of that, and we'll see where they stack up against everything else. Just to go over what we have so far, we on S tier, we have Heath Ledger's Joker, we have Danny DeVito as the Penguin, we have Aaron Eckhart as Two Face. In A tier, we have the Rogues Gallery of Batman 66 in Batman the movie. We have Jack Nicholson's Joker, and we have Liam Neeson's, I was gonna say Henry Ducard, Ra's al Ghul. In B tier, sitting comfortably, is Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman, Jim Carrey's Riddler. I wish I knew that actor's Falcone, Cillian Murphy's Scarecrow. We got
yes.
our boy Steppenwolf, and then in the C tier we have Poison Ivy from Batman and Robin, Max Shrek from Batman Returns, Lau from The Dark Knight, another Batman and Robin contestant in Mr. Freeze, and then Bane, and then the worst of the worst is a gallery filled with Two Face from Batman Forever. This really is like the one. I'm just looking at it like, could you imagine if this team decided to put together a plan?
Ooh, it's like
Uh,
something out of how it should have ended.
yeah, yeah, this is ridiculous. Bane from Batman and Robin, Talia from The Dark Knight Rises, BVS's Lex Luthor, Suicide Squad's The Joker, and then we have Steppenwolf from Justice League. But yeah, we come around to the Batman. It's just out. People have just re-seen it. They're loving it. A lot of people in this are getting praise, but some of them praise is being heaped onto the villains, and rightfully so. So I wanted to discuss these guys here. So we have John Turturro as Carmine Falcone. I really liked this. John has a level of he's reached a level of old man where you believe it. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Oh yeah. No, I everything about his Falcone was just believable. Like he was like a scumbag, like a scummy old
Yeah.
timey New York dick. You
Right,
know,
100%.
I
And sleazy,
love
like
it.
you feel the sleaze just dripping off
Yeah,
of him, and he barely raises a voice. He barely
yeah,
yells. And
but
I
he
think,
commands. But it
yeah,
commands. It's so good.
I think that that totally lends to that character's the way he plays that character. Like I said, like it's believable because he's not overacting. He's acting as if he's acting like a man who controls everything, and thus he's incredibly chill in all situations. But that makes it to me difficult to place. Makes it difficult to
Really,
place, my man.
I found it really easy.
Yeah, where you want to put him?
I enjoyed him a lot. Probably one of the things I enjoyed the most about this very great film. So I
Really?
would
Was that?
easily,
I don't know if we spoke about that initially on the first watch that he stood out as much as he did.
yeah, yeah. I loved his Falcone so much. Even more the second time that I watched it. I watched it yesterday. It's like
Yeah.
he's so good. I if only the only thing I was wondering was like if Catwoman gave him the three scars at the end of the movie, then where the hell did he get them from the entire time he's
Oh yeah,
had?
that's true. Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Okay. But other than that, like that's such a stupid little thing. That was just something I found funny.
Right.
I loved him. I loved him so much. I would for me, he's the answer.
I
Uh,
think A tier. I think A tier is fair. To be fair. Um, Man, what I found was funny is that like I remember when Into the Spider Verse came out, right? And Into the Spider Verse gave us our first New York goon kingpin. You
yeah.
know, it gave us our first like almost Italian sort of kingpin,
He
and you
did the
know,
point.
it's not always about the money, Spider Man, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, like, wow, why have we never gotten this before? Like, it seems like it makes sense, New York, that it would be like that. And then we get this version of Penguin by Colin Farrow, who's like a New York Italian sort of Oswald Cobblepot, completely disappears in the makeup. And he's another one that just oozes sleaze. Like he's an incredibly unattractive man on purpose in this film, depicted that way, but he still carries himself around with like an unearned swagger that makes him look like the scum of the earth in this. And then he treats women weird. He's a drug dealer. He's an arms dealer. All that kind of stuff. After two watches now, where do you sit on Colin Farrell's Penguin?
I think Colin Farrell's Penguin is is another part of the Batman movie that I enjoyed a lot. The only thing that I think would keep me from throwing him all the way up with everyone else so far is that we didn't get so much of him because his story is yet to be told. He's
Yeah,
got he's going to get a spotlight on him, and I'm sure that after we watch 6 episodes of Colin Farrell as the goddamn Penguin, we're going to be talking very differently. But I feel
yeah.
like before we get to that, I can't yet place him at an A tier. Like I think he can be there. I just think we haven't gotten enough yet. I think it was great. I think we had a great car chase scene, and I think he showed great potential to be an amazing Batman villain.
Yeah.
I don't think that I want to place him in the A tier
See,
yet.
I feel the way you feel, but I feel that way about S tier.
Yeah,
I feel that we're not ready to put it in the S tier yet. I feel like he's low A.
I could see that because I feel like he's high B.
See? But look at who's in B. I think he's heads above everybody in B though.
Sure. Yeah, but at the same time, I feel like he's heads above everybody in B. But when it comes to someone like Catwoman, who was also the B villain of her film,
Yeah, it's true.
they the level of significance that they had is almost equal. Like she probably had more screen time than he did, but she failed in more places
Yeah.
than he. I loved his Penguin. I didn't think I've seen enough of him to be like, yeah, hell yeah, A. But I would go with low A. I
I
think
go
low.
low. I think low A works. I think low A works. But I think you're right. I think that the Batman will. I think right now that we've just seen it, and it'll be some time before we get a sequel. You know, I love the hype around it, but I really think that it might be setting up for quite frankly the best Batman anything ever. The thing that comes next with this foundation, I argue that we've never had a foundation set this well in a Batman universe before. So now that we started like this, the next thing is going to be the most fire thing of all time because like even Begins is a bit dry. I think this is more. I thought Batman was better than Begins in the pacing
Yeah,
of it all.
yeah, it absolutely was better than Begins. If only if it also didn't. It wasn't weighed down with having to tell the origin and having to spend half the film getting to the Batman.
Oh
That
yeah,
was like
yeah,
that's what like it's always gonna have the advantage of giving you the Batman like 10 minutes in. Like we're 10 minutes in the film and we are here. This is happening. You
yeah,
know. But this says so much that the Batman isn't compared to Batman because no one thinks to compare it to Batman Begins. It's
no,
immediately The Dark Knight. Is it better than The Dark Knight? That's how good it is.
right.
It,
But I think in doing so, people are misremembering. That's the only reason why the Dark Knight is so good. The Dark Knight, I don't think would have been that good just on the strength of the Dark Knight alone. I
yeah,
think
you
it's
had to
building
really,
off of relationships and Begins. You
yeah,
know, and so um, I still think Dark Knight is better than the Batman, but I don't think that it's a fair fight. I think the
yeah,
fair fight will be the Batman sequel, which I
yeah,
think might
exactly.
have the opportunity to eclipse it if given an opportunity. And it could eclipse it if you keep Joker in prison. Please, for the love of God, please have some restraint. Please.
I'm fairly certain, just from the way this movie was set up, like the two, there were two stingers in the end, and one stinger was for Penguin, and the other stinger was for Joker and Riddler.
Yeah,
And then there's two spin-offs in development right now. One is for Penguin, and one is in Arkham. I
that
like
is very
fairly
true.
certain that the Joker Penguin story, the Joker Riddler story, is going to get told, and it's going to get told on that HBO Max series. And honestly, I don't got any issue with it. It's
Yeah.
this new world where a trilogy of movies doesn't just mean a trilogy. Now it means a trilogy and TV spin-offs.
To be
It,
honest, now that you think about it, like that's comics, isn't it? Like it's like
yeah,
okay, we're gonna we'll do this Joker or Penguin miniseries. You don't
yeah,
necessarily have to read it, but if you like Batman and you go and read it, you'll get a better understanding of all this stuff. They're kind of figuring it out. Like, why don't we just do what these books have been doing for
yeah.
decades that we're basing this stuff on?
They're getting it. They didn't get there the way they should have got there, but they're getting it. They're figuring out that this world can be intertwined and spread out into even further horizons.
Yeah. So I made a mistake. I actually forgot one, but I would like to bring it up here in general and see if we could debate where it would go. Where would you put, and I guess because it just wasn't live action, but where would you put the Phantasm?
Oh wow, that's a that's easily an A-tier. Like I didn't even have
I,
to think of that.
I
The
agree as
the
well.
the way like the way they tied Andrea to Bruce's origin and didn't step all over the things that make him Batman, but rather enhanced it.
Yeah,
Like the the pain that you feel for Bruce Wayne when he wants so badly to be with this woman and and he just can't because he has to do Batman. And that choice leading to her life, like he wasn't there when she needed him most, and she fell down a bad path because he
yeah,
chose to be Batman. It's like it's freaking awesome. Like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't believe the Phantasm didn't leak into like more stuff. Like we haven't seen that in anything else. It
She
exists.
popped up in that Catwoman comic, right? The
Yeah, like
Batman Catwoman
recently,
comic.
Tom King used her in Batman Catwoman, Cat Bat, or whatever he called it.
Yeah.
And I think she showed up as an older lady in the end of Justice League Unlimited. It's not
Okay.
the end, that epilogue episode. I think Waller paid her to kill Terry McGinnis's parents, but she was like, I can't do that. That's really sick.
Right, right, right. I'm retired. It's been a while.
But yeah, no, Phantasm is such a great villain. It's just like people hear it and they're like Phantasm, and you see the names that are here like Joker and Ra's al Ghul and a Penguin and Falcone and and
Yeah.
Catwoman, and you're like, who the hell is Phantasm? Like Phantasm story. It's in its relation to the character Batman. It's masterful. It's awesome. I
Yeah.
can't believe, like I said, we haven't seen a live action. It didn't show up in more comics. It's nuts.
Right. I think I totally agree with you. I think that's A tier. Where do you sit on Zach Galifianakis's Joker from Lego Batman?
he he was the whole relationship thing that they did.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it was great. It was very
Recontextualizing
entertaining.
the rivalry as a relationship.
Yeah, yeah, it's fun. It was fun. It's very entertaining. I loved it. I wouldn't. It wasn't as compelling as
Yeah.
everyone that really hates here. So it's a clear.
I
It's
think
like
it's
a
B.
it's
Yeah, I think
B.
B is
It's
fair. Yeah.
definitely B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. But now we are at the final, the big bad of the Batman, Paul Dano's the Riddler, Edward Nashton, as opposed to Edward Nigma, but I think Nashton was the original surname name of the Riddler when he first appeared in comics.
And there was like something like one of his aliases was Enigma, right? At
Yeah,
one
yeah,
point. Yeah.
yeah, which
I
would make
never thought.
sense. Like
Yeah.
sometimes that's a bit on the nose, like that you would actually be
Yeah.
born that way and then turn
Enigma.
out that way. But taking it on makes a lot more sense
Yeah.
than being born like Mister E, Enigma, Doctor Enigma. So where do you sit on Paul Dano's Riddler? I'll go ahead first and say that I really liked it, but I definitely got shades of Ledger's Joker in this, and I didn't know how I felt about that because it started to once people started the conversation about this versus Dark Knight, that becomes one of my pet peeves. It's like, well, I saw this, like I saw, notes and videos, scary looking notes and videos being sent to Batman, telling him to do stuff so, and try to figure things out, you know.
I think
But
at a basic level, you're always going to find some of those similarities, and if you look for them, they're going to they're going to appear heavy because they're like there. You can, if you look really hard, you can make the Harry Potter series sound like a Star Wars ripoff.
oh yeah,
It,
100%. If you boil
it's
it all down to the hero's
yeah,
journey and the Bruce, I mean, I would say Bruce
yeah.
Campbell, the Joseph Campbell of it all, Bruce Campbell.
I honestly, I feel like this Riddler um stands on its own. If actually, now that you mentioned the thing about being too similar to Heath Ledger's Joker, we got a glimpse of Batman's Joker, this Robert Pattinson's Joker, and in the deleted scene and in the proper film proper. And
Yeah,
I kind of hated I hated the Ledger influence, like the
that's what I'm saying.
lip
Yeah.
smacking and all the. I was like, all right, if we lean too far into the Ledger one, that's purposely different than what the Joker really is and only fits in its own world, then we'll start taking away from what the Joker is supposed to be. But hopefully we won't have to deal with that. Like,
Yeah, no, totally. And like I said, like the I think they kind of up the ante in the depiction of domestic terrorism in this because there's been a lot of domestic terrorism going on, especially in the last couple of years, and they were able to pull for some very real examples of that and how they build fandoms around, these sort of terrorists and
how they're
their
hyped
mission
up by
statements.
random internet people to do these horrible things.
But it all boils down to a very personal vendetta against society for a very
Yep.
personal reason, as opposed to, you're not trying to free the masses. You're trying to get revenge on for your own sake and stuff.
Yeah.
So like I'm not saying any of that as a detraction. I'm saying that it was almost um, super realistic to depict him that way, and to
Yeah.
depict him as somebody who at one point can't even vocalize his disdain over things just not going right. Like he literally just goes, because he just so, you know what I'm saying? Like he just
Oh
doesn't
no,
have the he just
no.
doesn't have the emotional capacity. Like you see it in him. But I totally dug him. That where does that put him though? Does he go up with the big boys? Is he hanging
No, I
out with
thought I thought uh I thought it was a great performance from
Paul
Paul
Dano?
Dano.
Yeah.
The whole I guess mentally disabled. I guess I'm not sure. Like, was it defined?
I get what you mean. At the very least, um, he was never treated. At the very least, whatever he was going through, because we're at a point right now in mental health where I think that the stigma has kind of been lifted from
Yeah,
people who have suffered from all sorts of mental illness, but he
yeah,
is surely not getting the help that he needs if he thinks
yeah.
that
No,
this is
yeah,
what he's gonna do.
absolutely. That's not to say people like I think there's like obviously an issue where people believe like, yeah, you're portraying all the mentally ill as villains, and we're not all bad. And it's like I get that, but like you said, he's clearly untreated, and he's not looking to get help. He's
That's the biggest thing. There's nothing wrong with you not feeling like yourself, or you feeling as if the mind is crazy. Chemicals in the body, all that stuff triggers trauma, PTSD, all that stuff is freaking real. But if you are, I always said the difference between a hero and a villain is that both go through trauma, but a hero uses that trauma to help people. A villain uses that trauma to hurt people. And through the trauma that Edward Nashton faced with this whole, like, with the shitty Gotham adoption agency, basically the shitty Gotham orphanage, and all the money getting moved around from that whole Renew Fund. He felt betrayed. He felt like somebody who fell through the cracks. And if you've lived on the earth for the past 5 years, I think each and every one of us has fallen through some sort of crack in the system and realized how lost you can really be, and how just a number or just a body count you could really be in this grand scheme of things. So in dealing with all of that, I think that he's up there. I put him A tier. I think he's
Yeah,
better
no,
than
A
everybody in
tier.
B tier.
He's certainly A tier for sure. I think even middle A tier, like above like Penguin for I think even it's just
Yeah.
um he fell just short of S tier, and I'm not sure I can even put my finger on it yet. I maybe it was uh I honestly
Like I say, when it comes to me, it's simple. It becomes like, if I want to see this done well, I have. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if I want to see it done S tier style, I feel like Heath Ledger's Joker does it. So I
for
feel
sure.
it's weird putting somebody up there. It'd be like we're both wrestling fans, and we've seen recently that some people like to take whole segments of matches and do them as homage.
Yeah.
So it feels like putting those matches up against the actual matches that did it.
Yeah.
It's like, I feel just feels disingenuous to put him up there. But if you look at these tiers that we've created, it kind of says something that I mean, that he does seemingly have, like, the it looks like the way it has shifted to upper tier to S tier, you know, characters. I believe I picked up 25, and so there's 9 there. So it's like the upper third. I mean, the 1/3 of it is high to God tier.
Yeah.
His rogues gallery. So I think that says a lot. Looking through this, do you see anything? Do you see any people that shouldn't be rubbing shoulders? Do you see anything that doesn't work for you?
No, not really. Honestly, we hit everything on the head. I think some people are going to be weird about the penguin up there, but when you hit second,
I love. Part of me wants to put this out like either tomorrow, because I can just save this picture. Part of me
you
wants to
should.
just put it out and be like, if you want to hear the rationale and reasoning of this, go check it out when the podcast drops. But I'm also looking to find a way to make this into a video and put it up, of sorts. I think tier factor can be fun. I think it doesn't take much research. It's all gut feelings and gut reactions, impulsive, exactly how the Major Issues podcast should be. But yeah, like, I'm liking this list. I am shocked that at the end, when we came down to it, that Penguin did get up there. I think it's funnier that he's in the middle, and he's not in the middle as far as ranking, but it's just
Yeah,
how it placed.
it's just so
And,
weird looking in the middle of these two
yeah,
serious characters.
and those two characters were in the same film as well. So it's like, hey guys, it's like sitting in the middle. Hey guys, I'm joining the party. Don't get too buddy. Um, but yeah, like that. One could argue that our S tier is the darkest depictions of Batman villains in his history.
I think people are mostly going to want they're gonna want Jack Nicholson where Penguin is, but you're gonna have to listen to this whole episode to figure out why.
or or just the beginning, because he was put up there pretty early. But I agree with you. I want to put him up there, but
I
he's high A. I'd put him.
would do high A.
I'd even do that. How's that?
Yeah, he is high A. He's the
Sta-
highest.
yeah, standard bearer. He's the standard bearer for A. Um, and yeah, like I said, like, a lot of these are people who, like, B is like, you just kind of pass the test. C is like, thank you for coming to class. You know, thank you guys for coming to class. We know you didn't bring your book bag or your pen, but
But
you're
we're
just gonna sit
glad to
here.
have you here.
Yeah, you get the credit for showing up. And then D is like, where did y'all go wrong? Like, and I think the worst parts of D is that when you look at almost everybody up here, it's been done either before or ends up getting done better in the future, which shows the potential of those characters, which is why they're where they're at, because the potential was there. It's not like, how could you ever depict, a freaking roided out, genius? It's like, well, we figured it out. So you guys suck on that. But man, I'm gonna love doing this. I want to do this a bunch of times and a bunch of weird stuff, ridiculous stuff. We're doing like, we could do TV show villains, superhero outfits, theme songs, seasons of a television show.
Gonna be
With like,
fun. I can't
it's gonna
wait.
be absolutely crazy. But this we'll wrap up this first episode of Tier Factor. Look, this is what it is, people. Look at this list. This is what it is. This is what's gonna be causing some fights. This is gonna be causing some arguments. And I'll go ahead even in the show notes and put a link to this where we did this, so you guys could possibly come up with your own list. We'd like to see what some of you guys are, where some of those things landed for you. You won't have a 2 hour or hour and a half podcast to discuss it why, but I still like to see where some of that stuff sits for you guys. But yeah, we're officially past 6 years on Comic Book Clique. We're coming up on, I want to say, 4 or 5 years on the Major Issues podcast. We like creating some of this new content and stuff, so keep paying attention. We're doing a bit of an overhaul on our side of things when it comes to social media, but it's in the best way. We're trying to increase our team and increase our reach, and doing fun stuff like this is always going to keep morale high. So this has always been fun. But thank you for listening to this episode of the Major Issues Podcast. Every other episode of the Major Issues Podcast is available. The one easiest place to find it is comicbookclique.com, which is where we put all of our everything that we do. Our articles written by us, merchandise designed by us. It's where Comic Book Clique lives and breathes, comicbookclique.com. And every episode of the Major Issues Podcast is already there. But if you already have a podcast player, if you already listen to your podcast on a specific app, we're available wherever podcasts are found. Podbean, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, the Apple Podcast app, TuneFind, YouTube, Spotify, Pandora, and even Facebook. And if you're following us on social media, especially Facebook, you'll get notified immediately when a podcast drops. So make sure you're following us across all socials like facebook.com/comicbookclique, Instagram at Comic Book Clique, and that you use that hashtag Comic Book Clique to talk about the newest, hottest, latest, and greatest things to come to comic books and comic book media. We're also at Major Issues CBC, constantly posting dank memes, comic book updates, and comic book news. So make sure that you're paying attention to that as well. If you'd like to help out things, we do this every single week free of charge, and it drops every single Wednesday. We haven't missed a single one. Knock on vibranium. But if you'd like to help us out, you could do so several ways. Consider rating and reviewing this podcast on iTunes in your iTunes app. You can rate and review us. You can give us a star rating and write a little bit of a review. And if you give us 5 stars, we pop up in other people's searches for this kind of conversation. And we want other people who are looking for our kind of conversation to reach us. So make sure that you are doing your best to spread the word with word of mouth. Listen to the Major Issues podcast. Put it on in your friend's house. Make them listen to it. Odds are you end up digging it anyway. But yeah, share, spread the podcast around, rate and review us on iTunes. You can do all that free of charge. Also consider getting some of our merchandise at Teepublic, which you could do so by going to comicbookclique.com and hitting that shop CBC link. We're dropping some Moon Knight shirts soon, and given Disney's propensity to take things down, these could be limited edition shirts. Jonathan Escudero, for those who just listening to the podcast and can't see it, is actually wearing a limited edition Comic Book Clique t-shirt that has been ripped from the stores, but I love it. It actually looks really, really good. A Restore the Snyderverse television I mean t-shirt.
It should be mentioned that I'm wearing the shirt because I enjoy it and it's comfortable. I've long since given up on seeing the Snyderverse restored. I don't want to be confused with one of the people on Twitter who still gets mad that the Batman made $750 million.
Oh yeah, no, you were never against that. You just wanted that man's vision seen throughout, and I also would suspect that shirt is at the very least a conversation starter. Oh,
Oh
you
yeah,
like the Snyder stuff, and then next thing you know, you're getting all in it.
in a
And
fight.
that's what
In a fight. That's what it's a fight.
fought some old lady at the grocery store.
That bitch had the nerve to disrespect Man of Steel. I,
She said Batfleck isn't canon, and I couldn't let it stand no more.
I said, "Now you're not gonna be canon, bitch. You're
There
gonna."
you go. Reality punch. But yeah, man. Just yeah, consider getting a shirt from us. Like it says, dank shirts. They're one of a kind. I make them myself, so you know they're being made original. Consider getting them. We get a kickback from every one of those shirts. But if you want to put your money where your mouth is, you really want to support us, consider going to patreon.com/CBC Clubhouse. And for as little as 10 cents a day, the lowest tier is just $3 a month. So as for as little as 10 cents a day, $3 a month, you can help us afford the hardware, the software, and just the resources in general to become a better channel, better podcast, a better people. You know, money makes people better, right? That's what that.
Yeah,
That's,
absolutely. Every story
absolutely.
that's ever told has supported that.
Yeah, yeah. The money says in God we trust, people. It's all there. So help us become better, because I've been to the future where we do become the latest and greatest thing to come to comic books and comic book media, but I can't tell you how we do it because it mess up the timeline, and then Lau would be in the S tier, and everyone would be
Oh,
confused.
oh
Uh,
no.
I mean, no one man should have all that power. So help me keep Lau exactly where he deserves to be, and help me keep this whole thing running as we do this, because that's what we're here to do as part of Comic Book Clique. But that's all I got at the moment. My name is George Serrano, aka the Don,
This is John Escudero, aka Yogi.
and this has been our Tier Factor Cinematic Batman Villains episode of the Major Issues podcast. And remember, whether you think you're A tier, B tier, C tier, or D tier, if you're a member of the clique, you're always S tier. So always remember that, and always remember that you, yes, you, are worthy.